Hi, welcome to our assembly today. First of all, before I get started on assembly stuff, well done everybody for being so good when we had our fire drill yesterday. You were absolutely brilliant. You all came out really sensibly and really quickly, and you lined up really, really smartly. And just to remind everybody again, if that ever happens again, we all need to make sure that we line up really, really quietly so we can hear our teachers. But well done, because that was really, really good. You did a good job. Okay. So remind yourselves, what did we talk about in our assembly on Monday? Tell your partner. That's right, we talked about our neighbours and the things that we might get for other people if we wanted a gift. So we talked about things that we might want in Northwich, and we talked about the things that we might want if we were getting something in Kenya, and we talked about people who lived in that town in Nairobi, a part of Nairobi called Nakuru. And we were looking at the sorts of things that they wanted, because Christmas is a time, if we're not careful, when we can think about ourselves and what presents we're going to get and all of these sorts of things. But actually, it's also really, really important to think about everybody else as well. So sometimes we say we should look after our neighbours. You should be kind to your neighbours. And we talked a little bit on Monday about what our neighbours meant, because it can mean the person sitting next to us. It can mean the person in the house next door to where we live. It can mean all sorts of things. But do we know who these people are? And what do we do if we don't know? Because obviously, if they're strangers, then we need to let a grown-up sort things out. But we can make sure that we look after other people in school as well, to make sure that our school is a happy place. So I'm going to tell you a story, okay? And I want you to have a think about the story and see if anything might apply to you. So in the Bible, Jesus said, love your neighbour as yourself. And that means that you should treat other people, you should look after other people in the way that you want to be treated as well. And that's something else that we've talked about in assemblies recently, about looking after other people in that way. So I'm going to tell you a story. Here we go. Mrs. Pink was an elderly lady who lived all alone. She was always moaning about the people who lived next door. They were called the Silver family. The children could sometimes be very noisy. They'd throw things over her fence, which really annoyed her. She got so cross at times, it developed into quite a game for the children, and they actually did it even more just to annoy her, to see how cross she would get. Well, not very nice. On the other side of Mrs. Pink lived the Green family. They had a large house and plenty of money. They went in to see Mrs. Pink from time to time, and she gave them homemade jam, cakes, flowers, and fruit and vegetables that she grew in her garden. And across the road lived Mr. and Mrs. Gray. They were hardly ever at home because they both had really big, important jobs in the city, and they were always busy. Now, early one morning, when Mrs. Pink was picking some vegetables in a garden, she tripped and she fell. She found that she couldn't get up. And as she lay there, she called out to try and attract someone's attention. And the Green family heard her shouts, but they didn't want to get involved, so they pretended not to hear. They thought someone else would come and help. Mr. and Mrs. Gray were just leaving for work, and they were late as usual, and they drove off, pretending not to have heard the cries, and they didn't think that they'd got time to help. But Mrs. Silver saw what was happening from her bedroom window, and in no time at all, she was at the old lady's side, helping and reassuring her. Her children, too, played their part and stayed to help, even though they should have been going to catch the bus for school. They were all really worried about Mrs. Pink. And following their mother's instructions, one rang for the ambulance, while another fetched a blanket to keep the old lady warm. Now, Mrs. Pink was soon taken to casualty. After an x-ray had been taken, it was revealed that she'd broken her leg, and she had to stay in hospital for several days. And the Silver family visited her every day. Mrs. Green and Mrs. Gray sent get well cards, but they didn't go to see her. And when Mrs. Pink returned home, Mrs. Silver and her children continued to visit and help her. Mrs. Pink no longer moaned about the noise and enjoyed hearing the children playing in the garden. They in turn grew to like her and respect her and had no cause to annoy her. They all became good friends. Mrs. Pink realised just how wrong her judgment had been. Now she really knew her neighbours. So there you go, guys. Have a think as a class. Tell your teacher what the most important thing about that story is. Pause the video. Right, collecting all of your ideas. Now, I think the most important thing about that story is that we need to look after other people. If it was us who had fallen and hurt ourselves, we'd want other people to be kind and to make sure that we had some help. And actually, the best way to do that is by being there to support other people if they need it. Now, Mrs. Pink didn't know the Silver family. You don't know other people around the world, in the town, and actually, because they're strangers, we need to keep ourselves safe, so we don't talk to strangers. But we need to make sure that we're there to help other people. And Christmas is a time when we need to think about other people as well as ourselves. So over the next few days and weeks, have a think about how you can help other people as a family. So I'm going to make sure that when I go shopping to the supermarket, I'm going to be looking at all the lovely things that I can buy. I'm going to be looking at all the nice food, all the Christmas presents, but I'm going to put some extra things in my shopping trolley each time. And I'm going to give to the local food bank so that I can make sure that I'm helping other people. And I don't know who these people are that I might be helping, but we'll talk a little bit more about food banks and about how we can help. And then hopefully I'll be able to help other people. And maybe some of you can do that same thing too. So we're helping other people, no matter who they are. So have a think for a moment. Close your eyes. Have a bit of thinking time. And think about how we can be thoughtful in whatever we do. How we can be helpful, supportive to others. How we can help other people, not because it gets us something, not because our teacher gives us dojos for it, or because mum and dad say well done or tell us that we've got to do it, but we need to think about doing these things because we know it's the right thing to do to help other people. Right, so there we go, guys. Have a lovely rest of the day. I'll see you around school. Bye-bye.